Hello, everybody. We're a little early, so we will give people a little bit of time to log on. We'll probably start about 2 minutes after the hour. And if you have not met Teddy Pickles, I thought I would bring our mascot and the star of the show for just a minute. She's clearly not that into this right now. She's yawning at me already. She wants to get back in her bed, but I thought I'd give Teddy Pickles a minute to shine because she likes to be on camera and she can see herself in the monitor's reflection and she's bored but staring at herself because she's adorable. All right, I'll let her go back to bed. Like I said, we'll give people a minute to log on. I will go ahead and get the presentation share up while we wait for people. Give me just 1 second. All right, there we go. Now let's see if everybody who actually registered shows up. So we had a really large number of people register, which always makes you wonder, are they going to show up for the live event or would they just watch it on the replay? If everybody shows up, I'll be glad that we moved it to this forum. If they don't show up, I'm going to wish we stuck with our original forum because we were going to do more of a fireside chat so that there could be more conversation. So we'll see how that goes, and then we'll use that to adjust our future presentations as we go along. But we're just at the top of the hour. So again, we'll give another minute or two and let people hopefully log on so we can get going. And Bettina, Sarah, good to see you. If you have links to your recent podcasts, episodes, drop those in the chat. I always think it's a good opportunity to exchange our links, let people know what we're working on. My newest thing we're going to talk about in a little bit, so I'm not going to spoil it just yet. And if we update the chat, you can actually use it. So there we go. Thanks for letting me know, Sarah. Now the chat's set so everybody can actually connect, I believe. Sarah, let me know if that chat's working for everybody. Can also adjust the settings still. Let's see what we got. Q&A, where's my chat? One moment. Interesting. Well, where is it? All right, we got people starting to trickle in. Interesting. Okay, well, we've got the Q&A option. Looks like it is not because we're already in live. It is not going to let me change the chat option. I apologize for that. But if you do drop your links to your upcoming podcast episodes in, I will share those out in our next newsletter so everybody can get access to those. The Q&A, you can utilize the Q&A, and I will take care of any answers at the end of our workshop as best I can, as time allows. So feel free to drop those in as we go along. All right, so we're starting to get people. I'll go ahead and do kind of the initial kind of intro and all that good stuff, since that's not really what you're here for. You're here for the meat. So today, thank you for joining me. Our presentation is monetization tips, turning your podcast into revenue without a sponsor. So tips, tricks, and hacks for indie podcasters. That's what we like to focus on here at PodOps. And who am I? I am Rob. I am the founder of PodOps. And as I like to refer to myself, I'm sort of the head nerd over here. I like to dabble in all things tech and marketing. I have a background in fundraising and web development. So PodOps has been a labor of love. And what PodOps is exactly is we started as a podcast hosting platform. And over the last few years, we have developed that really into a full all-in-one solution for creators to do everything from create their audio and video podcast to market it, to record, edit, and then distribute it. But enough of that. Let's get into what we're going to talk about tonight. So monetization tips. And somebody should probably clock, how many times am I going to say the M word? I'm sure it's going to be a lot. First, we're going to look at what it is to, understand monetizing without a sponsor. Then we'll look at direct monetization strategies followed by indirect. Next, we'll touch on content hacks and then look at building a monetization plan. So sort of a timeline, something you can actually put into action. And then we'll finish up with Q&A. All right. So what is it to monetize without a podcast, or excuse me, to monetize without a sponsor? You can't do it without a podcast. That's the one thing you do actually have to have in this scenario. So your podcast, you do have to think of it as a business asset. It is something that's incredibly valuable. And like any business, you need to focus on what your audience is going to value. So what is your niche? And I know you've all heard that before. You need to be tailoring your episodes to provide some sort of solution or entertainment and that insight that's, meeting your listener needs. So that's the first thing. We're creating content that is engaging the audience and it's creating that value. And then another thing I know that you've heard before, it's going to be that you've got to drive the consistency of releasing your episodes. You're consistently releasing value. So every week or bi-weekly or bi-monthly, whatever that is, you've got to keep it up. So not falling off the wagon. I know most of us, especially in our first podcast, can be really guilty of we're doing really well, something in life sidetracks us, we take an unplanned hiatus, we lose all our listeners. So sticking with the consistency is so important. And then once you have a podcast or multiple podcasts, it's building the relationship. So that's the foundation of where you're going to start to be able to monetize without focusing specifically on a sponsor or a company funding your podcast. And when we think about what that means to build a relationship, I'm really talking about other podcasters. So podcasters, you might think of them as being competition, as in we're all looking at the same audience or we're fighting for the same listeners. That is not necessarily the case. We are sharing audiences, absolutely. But just because somebody listens to Sarah's podcast doesn't mean they can't also enjoy my podcast or Brian's podcast or Bettina's podcast. They can listen to multiple podcasts and they can also like different podcasts for different reasons. But as we connect with other podcasters, we want to make sure that we're finding ways to attend workshops. Podfest does a really great job of traveling the country and doing meetups. If you've not attended one of those, they're typically free, or they might have the cost of something like a drink ticket or an appetizer. Those are really valuable. You can meet local podcasters who their only agenda is to meet other podcasters. They're usually looking for people to be a guest on their show, or they want to be a guest on your show. But that also is a great opportunity to meet local studios, local producers, local editors. And these people usually have other bigger connections. So it starts to get you access to a much larger world of the podcasting space. So podcasters, they're all really your BFFs out there, even if you think of them as competition. It's a healthy competition. So we're sort of building each other up in a way. We don't need to tear each other down. And then as we're looking at all these things, we're making the connections, we're going to the conferences, we're doing workshops like we're doing here right now. And then we're, focusing on getting our content out. What is that long-term growth? So that's something you've really got to focus on. A lot of us get short-sighted and we focus on the timeline of, I've got to get an episode out. There's something due on Friday. It has to go out on Tuesday, whatever that is. And we're not focusing on where are we going from here. So have that in mind as you're, yes, taking feedback, adapting to the industry. The world's always changing. If you happen to have a podcast about AI, a year ago, whatever you were presenting on is going to be very different than today. AI is rapidly changing, so you can't just spout the same stuff. You can't be talking about ChatGPT. You have to be cutting edge, right? So you've got to evolve your conversation to continue to do what we originally just mentioned with the listeners of meeting their needs, providing the value, but always looking ahead of what are you going to focus on next? Where are you taking it? What is your goal for your podcast? And having that long-term vision is what takes us into starting to think about these monetization strategies. And so we'll start with what I consider probably the easiest one, or at least the one that's got actual money tied to it, because that's what everybody wants. They want money, right? So direct monetization strategies. And what is that? It's where a listener or your audience member, they're paying you. They're giving you money for your podcast or your content or a product. And on the left side of your screen, I think that's on your left, it's on my left, you can see some options for direct monetization. So that would be tips, subscriptions, premium content. Those are the three that are in most hosting platforms, or there's some variation of those in the hosting platform. So I put a little image on the lower right for tipping, for example. That's something that a lot of our users on our platform use because it's a really low barrier to entry for podcasters, especially if they have a small audience. They can put the tipping on their podcast website that's provided to them, and people can give them a one-time or a recurring tip. Now, the amounts on there are large because I was testing this just for fun earlier, and then I took a screenshot and realized I put huge amounts. Those are not the amounts I have on my own podcast. I have 1, 3, 5, and 10 on my podcast as the dollar amounts. You want to start low. So we're starting with small amounts that are nominal, that people can actually swallow until you actually get some traction and you've got subscribers who are going to be willing to drop a dime. And at that point, you're probably looking at premium content. And when we say premium content, which really does tie to subscriptions, the two go hand in hand. When we say subscriptions, we're saying you're putting an email, you're putting a phone number or a name, something's being entered to get you through the gate. And the premium content means you're given money in some capacity to get that content. So think courses, something to that effect. And I did want to point out revenue share. So it doesn't matter where you host, every hosting company, ourselves included, we're taking some portion of the money that is coming into you as a podcaster. So I picked our three kind of main competitors here in the US to put up here so you could look at that. Because when you're looking at money in your pocket, you also have to look at money that you're losing when you have that money coming in. So the way that breaks down, the revenue share, when you say 100% comes in from the person, when you're at Buzzsprout, 85% goes to you, 15% to Buzzsprout. Libsyn and Podbean, 70% to you, 30% to Libsyn and Podbean. And then at PodOps, it's 95% to you, 5% to PodOps. So again, you also want to consider where you're running transactions through. I know a lot of podcasters don't always think about the kind of credit card aspect of it, but all of those things play into your strategy, because if you're spending 30% or 50% and 5%, that's also money that you've now lost. So you've got to kind of weigh that in. And I did order these in what I think are the easiest or maybe best ways to enter direct monetization. So like I said, tips, it's more passive. Subscription, somebody's got to give you information. Premium content, this is something where once you've got an established podcast, this is where you might be able to kind of pivot and look at really adding some sort of specialty podcast or a course or something where you're the expert bringing this special information. And even with that, I always suggest putting out, so say it's a 10 episode series or whatever it is, maybe the first 2 or 3 episodes, those are free. So those are not gated. A user can subscribe and enjoy them. When they get to that 3rd or 4th episode, this is where they've got to actually pay to get the rest of the content. But at that point, they should be hooked. And that's how you're turning that revenue over, and they're getting that monthly subscription into you. When it comes to the final two, so external platforms, you're all familiar, I think, with Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee. Those ones, I think they take a little more work. With premium content, whichever host you pick, generally the person's going to go to the platform, they're going to push the button, especially if they're on their phone, Apple or Android, they can probably use Apple or Google Pay. They just go click, click, payment's done, scans their face, finger, whatever it is. The payment's done. They don't put in any additional information. Patreon, if it's my first time there, I have to create an account. So you've got a barrier right from the get-go. You might lose them. Same thing with Buy Me a Coffee. So they're great tools, but those little barriers to entry, people don't like necessarily. So it's not impossible, but it's just another hurdle you might have to get over. And then with merchandise, I clearly am all about merchandise. It is everywhere, all around me. There's tons of it. I am all about branding, putting your podcast brand, whatever it is, on everything you can. but I put this last because it can be really expensive. The logo you see to the right, Teespring, they're a really good print-on-demand platform. So say you do want to do t-shirts or water bottles, with that platform, you can actually, create a shirt, create a design, and order on demand when you need it in the quantity you need it. So say you sell 2, you can just order 2 and have them shipped. You don't have to bulk order 1,000 t-shirts and then have them sit in your house for 6 months. I'm maybe using a real life experience there. Who knows? It's amazing I'm still married, but it can be expensive. So if you're ordering a lot of merchandise and you have to store it in your home, in your apartment, you've got to sit on it. So think about where you're also getting that from, because the merchandise also has shipping fees. A lot of those you have to absorb. And if you're selling t-shirts for $10 and they cost $5 and you have to pay for shipping, your margin might only be $1 or $2. So again, you probably want to wait until all of these other pieces are in place before you're diving into that component. Now, when it comes to indirect monetization strategies, this can be really appealing to people. So these are things like your affiliate marketing. Sorry, it's been a long day and the caffeine is starting to wear off. Services, coaching, workshops, collaborations, product placements. So these are things where you are offering your expertise necessarily on external platforms outside of your podcast, or you're leveraging your podcast as the expert. And affiliate programs, affiliate marketing to be specific, have really taken over. I'm sure you've all had somebody try to sell you something online through Facebook, through Instagram, LinkedIn, or TikTok on how this is the best whatever makeup. Or a couple of years ago, it seemed like everybody was selling leggings online and they wanted you in their pyramid scheme. That's affiliate marketing. It comes by many names. It's always the same thing. But there are good affiliate marketing programs out there. I put one on the screen for you. On the right, you can be a PodApps ambassador. People who refer, they can earn $20. There's a great program for you. And shameless plugging, never anything wrong with that. But when you do affiliate programs in the purple box, research, verify, and refine. And I will use the example of one of my clients who I will not name because I can't tell if they're actually logged in and I would not want to offend them. On their website, they have quite literally 24 different affiliate marketing programs they're participating in and selling all kinds of different products. The first thing that's confusing for them as a brand, if you come to their website, I no longer really know that you're a podcaster. It seems like I've come to a weird Amazon-like store and you're pushing all these products at me. When I click on some of those products, they take me to websites that I would not want to put my credit card into because I'm probably going to have my information stolen. The sites look sketchy. So the first thing is, if you're signing up for a program, do some research to make sure that they are legitimate programs. And I love that somebody just said that they made matcha tea, Bettina. I need the caffeine. I switched to water, which was a stupid mistake before this. I am trying to read your chats too as we go along. With the affiliate programs, you want to make sure that they look legit. If you feel like it's scamming you, somebody else is going to feel the same way. They're not going to buy it. It doesn't matter if it's a great product. They have to have their website at its A game. You also want to verify and refine it. So make sure they're a legitimate company. Look at reviews. If you see tons of reviews online about this product is garbage, it's horrible, it fell apart, you don't want to promote that. Do not tie yourself to a brand that has lots of negative reviews, because those are going to spill over to you when you're pimping the product and people then start having problems, and it's not necessarily your fault, but it becomes your fault. And with refining, you do not want 10 or 20 of these products on your website, no matter what they are. You want the 1 or 2 really great products that have some way to tie back to your podcast, to your brand, to your message. And again, to what we said at the first slide, to your listener and their needs. So if you're a podcast that's maybe a health-focused podcast, and maybe you're doing something with personal health or personal growth, there could be a lot of different affiliate programs that do things with self-healing or crystals or that kind of thing. And I'm kind of pulling from the air there, but a lot that you could offer there. And indirect monetization around the services component, the coaching and workshops. So I know we talked about coaching as a direct monetization strategy because you can have the courses. You could also get involved with other people's courses. So if you come in as an expert in maybe one of their episodes, or you guest, those can be things that then you're promoting externally. You might have a rev share even, where if you're helping sell their course because you're in one episode or two or five, whatever it is, they might give you a percentage, or as you help promote it, it builds your brand. And then when you release your course, you're able to market it to the same audience, which then leads into collaborations. And as we talked about, the podcasters who are our best friends, we want to constantly be collaborating. I know we don't talk as much these days, it seems like, about some of those host read ads, the post rolls and the pre-rolls and the mid-rolls, all that good stuff. For indie podcasters, doing those cross-promotional ads are still really valuable. I spoke with a company last week that their whole goal is to find a way to turn that into an AI model where you as the indie podcaster can just hit a button and auto produce those self-read ads, which I think is really cool. They haven't quite perfected it. It still sounds a lot like AI, but if they can figure that out, I'm here for it, because it's something that we could implement. You could do by pushing a button, and then it's just there. You don't have to record 200 different little ads. So today it's not automated for us. We have to do it. We have to record it. Still got to use our mics and our soundboards, all that good stuff. But it's there. It's something to consider. And then product promotion, where this is a little different from affiliate marketing. Affiliate marketing, you're going to a third-party site, you're putting in your name, and you're just volunteering and saying, I will pimp whatever you give me. Product promotion, you're usually working with a brand or another podcaster to say, I really want to rep this. I think this is a great product. I'm looking at my water bottle at the moment. It is not a Stanley Cup. It's just a normal person's water bottle. But remember when the Stanley Cups went nuts? Those popped up all over the internet. So those are people latching onto a product. And I'm not saying that's the one you do, but find those products that you might be able to promote that could potentially turn into something where you can connect with that company. Or if it's a small emerging company, great example. I can't give you full details on this, but September 30th, I promise, check our YouTube. You're going to be very excited about this announcement. The rest of it, I'm going to give you a tidbit and you're going to be annoyed. There is a microphone company that I met at Podcast Movement. They have some really cool mics. They're a new company, and they were like, we really want to get this brand out there and let people know about it. And I'm like, love them, awesome. They're lightweight, portable. Hollyland, let me check and tell you I said their name right. Yes, Hollyland, that is their name. That part's not a secret. So they were like, we want to do something with you with the mics. So the thing we're doing, you'll find out on the 30th. But that for us, it's a product promotion where we'll be bringing it to you, or how I just did. I just promoted it. I'm not necessarily getting anything. They are not paying me. They're not on my podcast, but you'll find out what they're doing with us on the 30th that actually benefits all of our podcasters. So again, really the theme here in any of these that you do, it's that research, verify, refine. Do not just sign up to a bunch of programs and slap them on your website. If you turn into that person, people can see through that, and they can see that money hungry kind of person. And it's not sexy. People don't like it. So don't do it. All right, content hacks for monetization, the M word again. For this one, again, I think some of these things are obvious, but a lot of people then say, oh, I didn't think of that. So we're going to say them. Repackaging your content. You go through all the effort to create your podcast. So you want to be sure that if you don't have a platform that can produce clips for you, use a tool like Headliner. You want to produce your social clips. So you want video content that can work on every single social platform. For pod ops, we use TikTok, Twitter, X, whatever it is today. It changes all the time, it seems. Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Those are the 5 we focus on. I'm not saying you need to have 5. I think if it's just one person doing it all, it's better to have maybe 1 or 2, 3 max networks that you can fully focus on, put good content out, and actually talk to people and engage, versus trying to do them all. Like we used to do Pinterest. We dumped it because we realized we did a bad job. The content was not good and we could not keep up with it. And I still can't format an image correctly on Pinterest to save my life. Our boards look like garbage. So like we have an account, it's just hidden and it's in the depths of our social media files that nobody has to look at. But you want to have all of the collateral. because you already have a great podcast. So YouTube videos, blog posts. Now the image to the left, again, I think that's on your left, it's on mine. That is a screenshot of our new AI blog tool that's going to be coming out this month. If you met me at Podcast Movement, I mentioned this a bunch. This tool, it's really cool. And when it came up with our users, I was kind of perplexed that they wanted a blog tool, because I'm like, we are a content creation platform, but I think audio, video, and blogs, I was writing these 15, 20 years ago, seem dated. But when the podcasters and other creators start saying, no, we want them for the SEO component of our website, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It brought my marketing brain clicked, or maybe it's my old brain just was like, oh yeah, turned it on. That made complete sense. So we built the AI component where within this, they'll build their persona, you'll put in your keywords and it'll pump out blogs for you. You can tweak them, edit them, change them, or self-publish. And you'll be able to use this type of tool to also generate audio and then do voice cloning and all that stuff. But again, it's just finding a way to ease your number of tasks, but create the content from things you already have, or find tools that will do it for you. And as kind of thinking about that, a lot of people don't leverage their user comments. So if you have comments on your Apple podcast page, or if you have them on your podcast website page, if you do not use a host that has comments on their page, you're using the wrong host. And I will read the quote to you in the purple box. It says, if you aren't encouraging your listeners to comment on your podcast, you're missing out. Who said that? I said that. I just said it right now for you. It's very important. You want to use your user comments. You want to encourage them in your episode to leave comments. You can then take that content. There's a graphic for social media. You can turn it into a video if you want. You can tag those people on social media. People love to engage. You would be surprised when you tag people, they will comment again. It will start a dialogue that pushes it up in those algorithms. It gets you visibility. It's just content that's sitting there waiting for you to use it. And then creating paid products, our second purple headline on the lower right. So you can develop digital products like courses, webinars, workshops, kind of like we talked about, and also bundle things like your related episodes and create deep dive guides. So this is one I like. I love to take old content that's been sitting around for a while, pull up things that I'm like, actually, this is really relevant again, create a little guide, like kind of a one sheet, and put that out in an email. Those are things that, oddly enough, they recirculate because you're always getting new audience members. And if you're like me, if I find a new podcast, I go back a couple episodes. If they have 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 seasons, I never go back to the start. I'm super lazy. I listen to the current season. I might take a peek here and there. I don't go back. So when they pull up the gems, those are the ones that I'm like, oh my God, you got me addicted. This is the crack of season 2. I am there, and now I'm binging, and I'm lack of sleep. So definitely look at what you have, bring it back, repurpose it. Those can also be really good if you're going on a hiatus or you just need a break, or you're going on a vacation, plug some of those episodes in. All right, timeline or plan, whatever we want to call this guy. Map it out. So what does this look like? Step 1, evaluate your audience. So you need to identify your listeners, their preferences. So this can be polls, surveys, however you want to gather that information in the easiest possible way. It can be simple stuff if you're using Facebook or whatever, Twitter. Put a poll on there, ask people questions. People surprisingly like to take polls. It's good data. It might be simple data. You could literally ask something as basic as, did you like this episode? Yes or no. If you get a bunch of no's, there's something to consider there. You can ask more complex questions, but if you don't ask, you'll never know. Then you want to actually analyze the data. So again, if you're like myself, I am great at collecting data. Kind of push it to the side. I'm like, great, got it, check the box, sit it over here, and I'm going to move on. You actually have to use the data. So you got to look at the data. What information did we get from people? How can I use this? So you've got to take the data, break it apart, see how it connects, and see what's there so you can connect it back to your content. So if it's, we want more of X, I want shorter episodes, I want ways to connect more directly to you, I want video. Those are all things to listen to that are usually really possible changes you can make. people generally aren't asking you to do insane things like, I want you to fly out and do a live episode with me on my ranch in the middle of Kentucky. Again, all fake scenarios. None of that was real. Nobody wants me to come to Kentucky, especially because it's really hot right now. And then tailor your strategies. That's the last item in step 1. So based on that feedback, as you're choosing your monetization options or your methods, what's going to resonate with your audience? So I mentioned on the slide that had tipping on it, that on my page, it's 1, 3, 5, and 10. If you see that you're getting, decent tips and maybe they're all hitting at 10, you can shift it. So maybe it's 3, 5, 10, 15. Just up it a little. We don't jump from 1, 3, 5, 10 to 20, 40, 70, 100. Like, let's not go crazy, just little things and start small. So that's why I say tipping's a great entryway versus today, if your podcast, say you've got 100 episodes, don't gate it and make the whole thing premium and tell everyone I'm charging $10 a month. You got to pay me or you're not going to get anything. You're going to lose all of your listeners. That's just what's going to happen. So, be realistic, which moves us into step 2, set clear goals. So looking at a timeline of, if you wanted to take a few of these different strategies, maybe 2 to 3 of them, maybe like implementing tipping, premium content, and an affiliate program, look at a timeline of 3 to 6 months. Give yourself some grace and some time, because I'm assuming all of you are like myself, where you've got a full-time job. You probably have children, animals, spouses, significant others, stress, life, all the crap that you have to deal with outside of your podcast and your podcast baby trying to make it thrive. So give yourself some grace and some time to actually implement these things. Don't put that pressure on yourself that you're going to do this in a week or a month. You'll make yourself insane. And as you're implementing it, just establish a plan that you can work with. If you need more time than that, again, I say 3 to 6 months as a general guide. If you need 12 months, give yourself 12 months. So again, give yourself some time. Step 3, implement and test. So roll things out one by one. So I mentioned tipping, premium content, and affiliate programs. If you think affiliate programs are the best place for you to start with that one. You don't have to start with tipping. You don't have to start with premium content. Start with the one you think works best and add the others as you go. It's not everything now or all or nothing. It's what works for you. Affiliate programs can be a great place to start because you can kind of passively research them, honestly. You can sit on the couch, you can watch TV and be Googling them and looking at them online. You can also be, if you're like me, your spouse can be talking to you and I can be ignoring you and looking at them online and just nodding my head and being like, oh yeah, I want to do that. Be careful with that. You can get yourself in trouble, mostly because I'm being listened to. And with that in mind, you want to make sure that you're also monitoring the performance. So you implement and test. I mentioned you launch these strategies, but whatever you pick, whether it's an affiliate program or tipping, the platform, I should say, has to have some sort of reporting. Make sure if you can't get a free trial, make sure you can get some sort of look at the back end or at least a screenshot to know they have reports so that you can look at your progress from today to month 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If there's no way in the system you can track what you're doing, there's no way you can be successful, especially with an affiliate program. If they don't have reporting, that's a red flag. You're being bait and switched right from the get-go. And step 4, diversify your revenue stream. So that ties into this whole thing. I'm not saying, I say we, I guess the people in my head, too many personalities trying to talk here. You want to diversify your revenue stream. So if you're starting with affiliate marketing, maybe the second thing is tipping. And as that grows, maybe you move into that premium content. And that could be something like maybe you start to, I say, experiment, adjust, and optimize. So think of maybe you are very into old world culture, like, I don't know, ancient Greek teapots or something. So say you've done a whole podcast on ancient Greece, and now you're going to do a 10 to 15 premium content podcast on how you actually create from scratch these I don't know, antique teapots. Maybe you're doing it or you're bringing experts on, and each video is another piece of the lesson where the first two kind of give you the how-tos, like episode one's like gathering your materials. Step two is like, again, I don't know how to make a teapot, firing up your kiln and making the pot itself, and then they go on. But you give a little for free, then you start gating. But as you experiment, it's building off what you know to build what you can put behind a paywall, what you're an expert in that people will pay you for because they can only get that knowledge from you. And then step 5, you want to regularly reevaluate. So goes back to step 1. Make sure in step 5 you're collecting feedback. So if you put out that premium podcast, make sure you can get reviews. Make sure you're hearing from people. Look at their feedback. Just because you put a premium podcast out there in the world and it's 10 episodes does not mean it can't be tweaked. You can always improve it because you can resell that thing 1 billion times and just turn it into a money machine. That's kind of the model that a lot of these people who try to sell you things on Facebook, Instagram chat, whatever it is these days, are doing. They're selling you this model that's been built to, if you sell this course, you'll make money. That's really what a premium podcast is at the end of the day. You can always refine it, bring in new pieces, update content, maybe a new expert comes along or a new methodology. You can work it in without having to redo the entire course, and it becomes a new benefit for the people who already signed up and a benefit to bring new people in to sign them up. And you just keep refining the plan from there. So really, you're always working these steps and constantly just thinking, how can I add new pieces in, test new pieces, and dump the ones that don't work? If you realize premium content's not for you, nix it, move on to the next one. If it doesn't work, you do not have to stick with it. Now, before I open it for questions, I do want to say October 10th, 6 p.m. Eastern, live right here, the one and only Sarah St. John will be presenting on 3 PR strategies to get media coverage for your podcast. It is going to be an excellent session, so make sure you're registered. If you haven't already, you can scan the QR code. Ooh, that was weird. Or you can go to thepodops.com/training in order to register for that. It is free, like all of our workshops, and it is open to anybody. And if you're interested in presenting on a topic that you think would be of interest, definitely reach out to myself. We are looking for presenters all the time. I think our next opening is in March of next year, March or May. So let me know. And at that point, I will open it up. If you have any questions, I know you can't see the chat. I can see the chat. Feel free to drop them in. I will take a look. I see, Sarah, you just said you signed up for the ambassador program. I love it. Thank you for signing up. Oh, and for anybody who missed it, if you joined a little bit after the beginning, if you want to drop your podcast URL into the chat or the Q&A, I will share those links after in the next PodOps newsletter that goes out and share those with our audience. So I'm happy to do that. Always like to give everybody a little bit of a boost. All right, I can see somebody's typing, so I'm going to give them just a second to get it in. And while I do that, I'm going to actually save these URLs that came here, make sure I get everybody's. I'm cheating, I'm screenshotting. Sorry, it's faster than copy and paste out of here. All right. Okay, well, it looks like there might not be any questions because that went quiet. But I will say thank you all for joining me. If you did, I see, Shamika, you mentioned you missed the first few minutes. No worries. This will be up by tomorrow on our YouTube channel, so you can catch the first few minutes or any pieces or scrub through. Feel free to share it. And like I said, our workshops, they're always free. They're open to anybody. You do not have to be a PodOps user to attend. So please spread the word. And we look forward to seeing you all on October 10th. Have a great day and a great night. And thank you all for joining me.